Hello there. Merry Christmas 2022. I have a student recital coming up this weekend, and to help one of my students practice her melody, she chose All I Want for Christmas Is You by Mariah Carey. So we're going to dissect this melody. We'll do a breakdown of how to play little sections, glue them together in two different ways, and then we'll get to some play-alongs to play them in rhythm at slow tempos, medium tempos, and all the way up to full tempo. Alright, so let's get started. Alright, so I like to look at this song as groupings of two measures that make up one phrase, and they're kind of technically are just like four different phrases until you get to the chorus, and we'll look at the chorus as its own thing. But let's get started on the first phrase of the verse. As we play through this, we're going to play some open voicings, and we'll also play some fully fretted voicings. Now, when I get to the play-along section, I'll probably play it mostly fretted, because that's how I'm comfortable playing it, but it's up to you to decide which way you prefer. Or explore the neck and find other ways to voice this same melody. Alright, so my first phrase is really a G major 7 chord. The vocal is. The supporting chord is just a G chord. But over top of that, I'm going to voice the triad of G, which is just the notes G, B, and D. So if I play that open, I'm playing the open string 3, that's third string from the ground. 1, 2, 3, that's my G note. Next string towards the ground, or string 2, that's my B note. And then a D is the third note in the G triad, and that'll be at the 3rd fret of string 2. So G, B, D. To make it a major 7th, I'm going to add on an F sharp note at the 2nd fret of string 1. And to close out the octave, I'll play a G at the 3rd fret of string 1. So that's G, B, D, F sharp, G. Okay, if I were to play that measure fully fretted, play the same notes, but I play them in different locations. So in string 4 from the ground, or the D string, I'll play that at the 5th fret. Next string towards the ground, 4th fret. That's the G string, or the 3rd string at the 4th fret. And then I'm back to the 3rd fret D note. So that's my G, B, D, F sharp, G. Alright, so let's talk about the rhythm of this first measure, and which is really the first half of the first phrase. So it's going to go G, B, D, F sharp, G. Rhythm is 1, 2, 3, 4, and. So we have 2 8th notes at the end. But then that 8th note is going to ring over into the second measure, and everything's going to be syncopated from that point in the rest of the phrase. So it's got G, B, D, F sharp, G. Back to the F sharp, then we're going to introduce the E note, and if you're playing open, you can play that on the 1st string open. If you're playing the fretted method, you play that E note at the 5th fret of string 2. And the last note in that phrase will be D at the 3rd fret of string 2. So put it all together, I got G, B, D, F sharp, G, F sharp, E, D. Fretted. G, B, D, F sharp, G, F sharp, E, D. Okay, get comfortable playing that phrase. Then we'll move on to the second phrase. The second phrase is also over a G chord, but it's going to start from the 2nd note of the G scale, which is A, and descend. And here's the pattern. It's going to go A at the 5th fret of string 1, back to the G. So A, G, G, F sharp. So it's going to go A, G, G, F sharp, back to G. And that's the first measure. And the rhythm count in there is 1, 2, 3, and. So we enter into syncopation a little earlier in this phrase. Alright, so this phrase is going to go like this. A, G, G, F sharp, G, F sharp, E, D. There's a little bit more on the tail end of that D, but let's get that rhythm down to each of that point. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3, and. Completely syncopated there towards the end. Alright, so at the end of the phrase, when we get to that D note on the and of 3, it's going to go and 4 and down to a C. I could also play it D and 4 and play the C note at the 5th fret of string 3 or the 1st fret of string 2. Choose which one you like better. Alright, so the whole phrase is A, G, G, F sharp, sharp, G, F sharp, E, D, D, C. Rhythm wise, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. Alright, your next step is, if you have phrase 1 and phrase 2, is to merge them. So all the way through, arpeggiating the G major 7 chord, and descending from the A note. Alright, moving into phrase number 3. So here we've introduced new chords. We ended that phrase on a C note, and the next chord to enter is the C chord. So we've gone from G to C in our chord voicing. This is going to affect our melody as well. So I've already established the C note in the last measure of the last phrase. So I'm going to start on beat 2 and play an E note. Now if you're playing the open method, you can play this whole phrase all on the first string. And it'll go E, G, A, and we're going to go up to B at fret 7. I'm going to follow the dots, so I'm going to go open, 3rd fret, 5th fret, 7th fret. And then the rest of the phrase descends that pattern, so the notes are E, G, A, B, A, G, E. And the rhythm is, remember it starts on beat 2, so it goes 2, 3, 4, and. If I played it fully fretted, again, I'd probably use the 5th fret of string 2 instead of the open E string. Alright, now your next step is bring that phrase into the first 3. So put it all together. Got phrase 1. Phrase 2. Phrase 3. Phrase 4 is probably my favorite one, because there is a parallel minor shift from a C major chord, or a C chord, to a C minor in this phrase. So it affects a lot of the notes we play. So instead of playing a B like we had before, we're going to play B flat. Instead of playing an F sharp like we did before, we're going to play an F natural. And instead of playing an E like we did before, we're going to play an E flat. Alright, and here's how this phrase goes. I'm going to start by arpeggiating the C minor chord, starting with a C note on the 3rd fret of string 3. So it really is not a good way to work in open notes, at least as far as I can see it. If you find a way, let me know. So I'm going to arpeggiate this by playing C at the 5th fret of string 3, an E flat, that makes it the minor chord, at the 4th fret of string 2, and then a G note at the 3rd fret of string 1. And that's my first start to the phrase. From there, I'm going to continue up from G a whole step to A, and then I'm going to bring in that B flat. So C, E flat, G, A, B flat. And back to the A. C, E flat, G, A, B flat, A. And then from here, I'm going to swing my pinky on over to the F natural note at the 6th fret of string number 2, down to the E flat note at the 4th fret of string 2. Put it all together. C, E flat, G, A, B flat, A, F natural, E flat. Okay, bring that into the phrase. That's going to be our next step. So I got phrase 1. Phrase 2. Phrase 3. And phrase 4. And that rhythm on phrase 4 is just 1, 2, 3, 4, and. Alright, so now we get to the second half of the verse, and the second half of the verse pretty much is the same as the first relatively, but instead of starting with the G major 7 arpeggio and following that up with the A descending pattern, we're going to start with the A descending pattern, then go into a G major 7 arpeggio. There's going to be a couple variations on it too. The rhythm's going to change slightly as well, but you'll get a better concept of that in the play-alongs. This next chord, back to a G major chord. I'm going to descend from the A, G, G, F sharp, G, F sharp, E, D. Same notes we played before, but it's 1, 2, and. Phrase number 2 starts off arpeggiating that G major 7 chord, but it also has a slightly different rhythm, so it's going to have 1, 2, and at the tail end there's going to be this little flash that Mariah Carey does with her vocals. We're going to play the F sharp, pull it off to the open E, and then follow it up with the D. So put that together. 1, 2, and a 4. Alright. The next phrase is kind of similar but different. It's not going to ascend like it did before over the C chord. It's going to have a little pause, start on beat 2, 2 and 3, and that's playing a B note. 2 and 3 down to A, back to B note. Sorry if I said it was a D note before, that's a B note. So B, 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 A, B. Frets 7 to 5. Rhythm, 1 and 2, 4 and then the rest is syncopated, and. So B, 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 A, B, A, G, E. 1 and 2, 4 and. So now when we get back to the C minor chord for the last phrase of the second half of the verse, over the C minor chord, it's going to be the same notes as before, but again, the syncopation is going to enter a little earlier. 1, 2, and. Alright, so now we're going to move along to the chorus. The chorus part is pretty cool, and it's pretty easy to follow along. The first 2 phrases are exactly the same, so once you learn 2 measures, you got the next 2 measures. So for this, I'm going to play G at the 3rd fret of string 1 to A. I kind of think of that as one mini pattern. So I'm going to start on a note and then go up. Then I'm going to go lower to an F sharp, raise that to a G. Then I'm going to go lower to an E and raise that to an F sharp. So it's G, A, F sharp, G, E, F sharp. And then the last part of that phrase is going to do the opposite. It's going to go back to E and then bring in the E flat. So it's G, A, F sharp, G, E, F sharp, E, E flat. Rhythm-wise, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and. 1, 2, 3, 4, and. And you play that twice in a row. And then for the Make My Wish Come True part, this might be another challenging part within it, but you can totally do it. I'm playing the D note at the 3rd fret of string 2, the E note at the 5th fret of string 2, and then on string 1 I'm playing the G note. Then from here I'm jumping all the way up to the 10th fret for a D note, and the 8th fret of string 1 for a C note. So that is D, E, G, D, C. Rhythm-wise, 1, 2, 3, and. And I'll let that ring out pretty much for the whole entire next measure. And when an A minor chord hits, I'm going to play that phrase right there. And that's really a 3-bar phrase. It kind of trickles over into the 3rd bar. But it is B, A, G, E, E flat. B, A, G, E, E flat. And then I'm going to jump back to an A at B, A, G. Rhythm-wise, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and. Now you might see me play the A to the G at the very end with a slide. You might see me play it in the play-alongs with a pull-up. You might see me just pick both notes. You'll be surprised. All right, so now that we covered the how to play this, let's put it to the test and do some play-alongs. All right, so on to the play-alongs. We'll do a slow one at 80 beats per minute, then we'll bump it up to 100 beats per minute, 120, 140, and then we'll see if we'll push it to 150, 152 beats per minute, which is where the actual tempo of the song is. One thing to note is there might be some slightly different rhythmic phrasing compared to what was explained in the how-to, but the how-to is to give you a general idea of the flow of notes, and this is going to specifically nail down the rhythms. You might see me play it the fretted way, you might see me play it the open way, but play it however feels most comfortable for you. All right, here we go, starting at 80 beats per minute. 80 beats per minute. 1, 2, ready, go. Here's the 80 descending. So that's 80 beats per minute. Let's do it again. 100 beats per minute. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. 120. 1, 2, ready, go. So that was 120. Now let's bump it up to 140. 140 beats per minute. 1, 2, ready, go. Awesome. All right, so now we're going to go to the full tempo of 150 beats per minute. Real tempo is 152, but push yourself to get there. Let's see if I can get at 150. 150 beats per minute. 1, 2, ready, go. Now challenge yourself to play at whatever tempo you feel comfortable at, but then the next day, try to bump that tempo up. All right, until the next time. Oh, make it a goal to play it twice in a row as well, too. All right, until next time, have fun.